Brighton are considered by many to be one of the best run clubs in the country. In recent seasons, their transfer business has been exceptional, buying young players, developing them and selling them on for a profit, but this year that did hurt them. They went from being European contenders in De Zerbi's first season to finishing in the lower half of the table this year, with more losses than wins and a pretty poor run of form since the turn of the year that was almost relegation level. Now De Zerbi's left them and they need some help. And that's where I come in. I'll have 5 years as Brighton manager to try and get the club to the best place possible, trying to win the Premier League and compete in Europe. But there's a twist, because in this rebuild, I'm going to continue Brighton's policy and I'm only going to sign players under the age of 23 to find some of the world's best wonderkids. Thankfully, the club already has some great ones like Evan Ferguson, Paraguayan Julio Enciso has promise too, as does the Brazilian João Pedro, and the list goes on with the likes of Carlos Baliba, Simon Adingra and Bart Verbruggen. And they're mixed with some great experienced players like Pascal Gross, Ecuadorian Pervis Estupinian, and winger Kairu Matoma. So overall, we've got a very good squad to start with, but that's not the only pluses of managing Brighton. They've got good facilities, a nice stadium and a growing reputation to go alongside it, and financially, sales in recent years has led to a huge bank balance of £130 million. In fact, the board have given us £70 million of that to spend this summer. With the team we've got, we're already predicted 9th place in the league, 50-1 favourites to win the title, so I think with the money we've got, if I make the right kind of transfers, we can make a team here that can regularly push for Europe. So let's see who we can bring in season 1. And going into this transfer window, I was planning to do pretty much nothing. I mean, we already had a very big squad with lots of young talent, and really, I was going to get stuck into the transfer business in season 2, but then we lost a very big player to our team. One of the club's best players, Pervis Estupinian, our star left back, 25 years of age, and probably one of the best in his position in the Premier League, if not the world, has moved on to Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. They came in for a £53 million bid, which was very hard to turn down, rising to 56 million. I wasn't necessarily 100% going to sell him for that fee, but he wanted to go. He was going to kick up a fuss if we didn't let him, and you can kind of see why, because he's on £1 million a week out in Saudi Arabia. But I think we've replaced him quite well. Again, we're only signing players under the age of 23, and our scouts recommended Leif Davis of Ipswich as the best left back option that we could find currently available on the market. We've bought him in. He's a great player who's going to like to bomb forward like Estupinian does, and it wasn't for the biggest fee either. We've paid £16 million for the former Leeds man who's gone to Bournemouth, gone to Ipswich, done very well, and I'm hoping he'll be ready to slot straight into that left back spot without too much more development. But I then signed 2 players for the future that I've since then loaned out to get more game time. The first one is Umut Tumukcu. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I was looking for good wonderkids out there that we could loan out and develop. There's already a very big loan army here at Brighton, and this is another one to add to it. He's a 19-year-old German central midfielder from Hoffenheim that we've picked up for 8.5 million and loaned him back out there for the season, where we're hoping he'll get some game time. He's already a very well-rounded midfielder, so the more he plays, the more that's going to benefit us when he joins us next year. And we've got wonderkids all over the team, but centre-back was an area where we lacked some real players for the future, so I've decided to sign John Pacheco. We then loaned him back out to Real Sociedad out in Spain. We paid £7.5 million for him, so it isn't the biggest fee ever, rising to 9 million, but our scouts recommended him much better than what he actually was when we signed him. They said he was going to be a really good player, then we actually got the deal done, and it looks like he might not be great, but he's a good ball-playing defender, left-footed. I think there could be a player in there. And that's all the business I did. I didn't spend all the money this transfer window. I tried to save some for the future. Like I say, we've already got a very big squad with lots of potential, so I don't want to block any of those wonderkids' pathways from developing in the team. And speaking of the team, this is what our best 11 currently looks like. Jason Steele is supposedly our best goalkeeper. He'll be competing with Bart Verbruggen. We've got Joel Veltman at right back, 31 years of age there. At centre back, we've got Jean-Paul van Hecker, who's a very good 23-year-old defender from the Netherlands, with another older head in there, Lewis Dunk. You've met Leif Davis already. In front of him is Billy Gilmore in the midfield, the former Chelsea man, Scottish international. Looks like a great player, age 22, and he's alongside the opposite end of the spectrum, 37-year-old James Milner, and he's probably playing the last season of his career. On the right wing, wing, we've got Solly March, who's been around Brighton for a long time, since they were in the Championship. Another older head, Adam Lallana, age 35, is supposedly our best attacking midfielder, with Ansu Fati on loan on the left, and Danny Welbeck is supposedly our best striker, age 32. So despite all of the great young talent in the squad, in terms of actual ability right now, according to Football Manager, it's most of these older players that actually are our best talents. And clearly, the game views Estepinian leaving as a big loss, because we've now gone down to 10th in the predicted table, 100-1 odds of winning the league. So far, my first transfer window ended up with us having less odds to win the league than before, but we're going to see how we can get on. Season 1, we'll give it our best shot, and then we can really start getting stuck into the transfers in the coming 4 seasons. And I must say, I thought this was going to be one of the easier rebuilds that I've done in recent times, but our first year has proved to me this is going to be a tougher job than I thought. We were in the Europa League this season, and in the first knockout round that we made it to, we faced off against Lazio, who went 1-0 up, and not too long afterwards, before the close of the first half, they made it 2. We did then manage to pull a goal back late on in the game through Baliba, but despite that brilliant strike, we lost the game 2-1, we lost the other game 2-0 to Lazio, so we lost 4-1 on aggregate in our first knockout round in Europe, a disappointing start to say the least. And in the league, we were equally disappointing, and that was proved in this game here against Manchester United, where this goal from Højlund opened the scoring after 6 minutes. Only a few minutes later, Garnacho went forward and scored a brilliant Maisie solo goal. And I'm not going to show you the rest of the game, but this is arguably the worst loss I've ever had in the rebuild. We lost 9-1 to Manchester United at Old Trafford, and that summed up our season. A 4th round exit in the FA Cup to MK Dons, a Carabao Cup semi-final exit to Liverpool, and a 12th place league finish with 45 points, 19 losses, 13 wins. Clearly, De Zerbi wasn't doing too bad of a job this season when he made them finish 11th. There's a big job to do here at Brighton, and I think I might have underestimated it. And we've got no great performances that we can at least say, okay, that's good, we can build from that, because our best players at the club were out on loan. In terms of players actually played on the pitch that did well, Jason Steele did, but he only played 3 times. Tariq Lamptey was mainly a bench player, but the best player outside of any of those was Billy Gilmore, who had a pretty good season for us, even if not the best, and João Pedro, who did manage to bag 19 in all competitions. So that was the only real bright point we can take from this year, because we're now going in to our second season with no European football and some older players leaving too. As you can see, Milner, Lallana, Welbeck are all coming to the last year of their deals, and Ansu Fati, who was pretty good for us, is going back to Barcelona after his loan. But there is still hope, because we didn't spend too much money last year. The board have given us a big £90 million to spend to try and improve this squad. So we definitely have the ability now to start improving this team, but we need to get it right, because after a season like that, we might not be in the job for long. And we did have a big transfer window. In fact, there was nearly £200 million spent in terms of incomings and outgoings at the club. But before we get into those transfers, I want to ask you guys to do me a massive favour. If you watch the channel, you know what I'm going to ask. If you could, like the video for me. It really does help me here on the channel, getting these videos out to more people. And if you are watching, if you're enjoying, and you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do so. It takes a few seconds to click, and we do weekly rebuilds here on the channel. So if you like this, you'll likely like what's coming as we push for 40,000 subscribers. Remember to comment down below what rebuild you want to see next. Every rebuild we do is based on your suggestions. And the final thing, I'm sure you've heard me mention it if you watch the videos, but I have my own Patreon linked in the description over there. You can support me as a creator, which is obviously amazing, and I really appreciate that. But in return, you do get access to the save files from all of the rebuilds we do, season 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, whether it's Rangers, Brighton, Paris FC, all of those rebuilds are on there for you guys to try out and try and do a better job than me, or continue the rebuilds after we finish them. But let's get into the transfers. Firstly, Valentin Barco is being loaned out to Boca. He's a good player with a lot of promise, but he isn't quite ready, I don't think, to play left back for us yet. It's another loan for the guy we signed last season, Tumuchu, who has gone to Hamburg this year in Bundesliga 2. He didn't play much for Hoffenheim last season at all, so he needs to get some game time there. We're keeping an eye on youngster Ibrahima Osman, who has joined us from Nordsjælland, already a pre-agreed deal that Brighton have done in real life. life. He's gone to Coventry in the Championship for the season, as has Adrian Mazalu, the other one in our loan army. The 18-year-old Romanian looks like a very bright, promising prospect for the future, and we're pinning a lot of hopes on him. In terms of permanent sales though, Steven Alzate is the first. The Colombian goes to Empoli for 1.4 mil. Abdallah Sima is a good young option, but age 23, I didn't think he was ever going to be good enough for the first team, so the Senegalese international has joined Sassuolo for 5 million. Speaking of 5 million, that's the fee we got for Joel Veltman, who's moved to Al Qadsiya, another one where he wanted to go as soon as the Saudi club came in. He didn't actually get much of a paycheck there at all, only £40,000 a week compared to Estepinian's 1 mil. And to the same club goes Jason Steele, who lost his place last season to Bart Verbruggen, so now age 33, he wants game time, and he's going there for a £7 million fee. Jeremy Sarmiento is a young promising player, but we've sold him to Everton. The Ecuadorian has gone for a fee of 13 million. He did well at Ipswich last season, but with the amount of young talent we've got at the squad, which you'll see in a second, I can't give game time to every single young player, so some have to go and make us a profit. Jacob Moda was one of those. He's moved to Al Nassr, again getting a massive paycheck of 750 grand a week. The 25-year-old from Poland wanted to go as soon as the offer came in. We've managed to get £23 million out of the deal, which I think is pretty good, but he did play a lot of football last season, so that's a player we need to replace. And finally, Dennis Undav has also left the club. He was out on loan last season for Stuttgart, came back for us after a good year for them, and has now moved to Brentford for £30 million. Not a bad deal for a guy that hasn't really played too much for us after signing for 6 million, had a season at the club where he only scored 5 goals, so we'll take that money and we'll run away with it. For our first signing, we headed over to the Bundesliga to pick up a young talent by the name of Nelson Viper. Now, even though I know a lot of Wonderkids in the game, I can only make transfers in this save based on my scout suggestions, so I can't use my own knowledge, but I know for a fact Nelson Viper is going to be a great player, and I was very happy the scouts recommended him. He comes in at 19 years of age as a backup striker option for £11.25 million from Mainz. And we bought another player from Mainz, signing Brian Gruder, age 20, who our scouts raved about from the club for 28 million, rising to 30.5. It's a lot of money, but he has been playing regular Bundesliga football. He's a left footer cutting in from that right hand side, and hopefully will be a great addition to the team. And valued now at 70 million, it doesn't seem like a terrible deal. And the final addition was Wilfried Singo, who comes in to replace Veltman now as our starting right back to compete with Tarek Lamptey. Age 23, the Ivorian international, I think will be a great pickup. He's good going forward, great defensively too. Bought him in from Monaco. 35 mil was a lot of money, but I think it's good value for the player we've ended up with. And already our best 11 is starting to take shape. Verbruggen is now in as the young goalkeeping option with Steele leaving. Singo is alongside Van Hecker, Dunk and Leif Davis at the back. We've got a young midfield of Baleba and Gilmore, and then in attacking midfield we've got Solly March, Pascal Gross and Cairo Matoma with João Pedro up front. Nearly completely different to what we had last season. I'm not sure I am going to stick with this tactic long term, but it's what I'm going for now. Other players at the club to point out include Igor, a very good Brazilian centre-back. Evan Ferguson, in-game, has a lot of promise, but isn't quite good enough yet to earn any minutes on the pitch. So when we are simulating, the assistant isn't giving him much game time at all. And I didn't actually know about this guy at all in real life, but Andrew Moran is a very good young prospect, an Irish international that Brighton signed a few years ago from the Irish divisions, and he's going to be staying at the club this year. You can see some other transfers have been done, like Dahoud and Webster I've loaned out with options to buy in the future, hoping to lose them down the line. We've got Kozlowski at the club. Buononte is another good young prospect, 19 years of age, who's been loaned out to West Ham for the season. And despite the transfers this season, the game actually thinks we've got worse. I could see why they would think that, because we sold on a lot of the experienced players, but we're now predicted 12th place, 200 to 1 odds. We need to try and prove them wrong and have a much better season than last year. The only issue is, with only buying players under the age of 23, we're relying on youngsters to get the job done, and some of them need some years to develop, so it's going to be interesting to see how we can do in Season 2. And this season, thankfully, we were far better than Season 1. Still not amazing, mind you, but you can see the improvement. We lost 9-1 to Manchester United last season, and this season we played Man City and got off to a great start. Not too much time left in the game, Mitoma found Enciso, who managed to slot away to make it 2, and then a strong burst down the right-hand side from Lamptey managed to get into a dangerous area to pull a cross in to Gruder, who made it 3. Now that win doesn't tell the full story, because in that season was also a 7-0 loss to Liverpool, a period where we went 3 3 games in a row drawing 0-0 even against 10 men in one match, so it definitely wasn't our best year, but it's an improvement. And it led to us finishing in a pretty respectable 7th place. No European football, but 66 points, 19 wins, only 10 losses. It was a much better season, and as you can see, most of those losses came against the elite sides in the Premier League. The cups we weren't great in, 3rd round exit in the Carabao, 5th round exit in the FA Cup, but it's something to build from. And in most rebuilds, I'd say signings are the most important thing, but here it's almost giving game time to these youngsters, because the guys that are going to do the job for us down the line are probably the ones that are already at the club. I mean, we had João Pedro having another good season and continuing his development, but it's nice to see the likes of Baliba having a good year and developing in the midfield. Mitoma, obviously one of our more experienced players, managed to bag 12. Brian Gruder came in and had a good first season in the Premier League. Evan Ferguson scoring 9, and Bart Verbruggen with some great performances in the net, already becoming, I would say, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So it's not been perfect by any stretch here with Brighton, but the second season was definitely an improvement. Now though, we've got 3 years left. I came into this with a plan of trying to win the Champions League. We're never going to get there playing like this, but we're now going into season 3 with £80 million to spend, 140 grand of wage budget, and we're going to do all we can to keep improving this squad. We need to find some good wonderkids though. And before I show you the transfers for season 3, I actually need to tell you about a transfer I forgot to talk about in season 2, and that is Maximilian Bayer, a young 22-year-old German forward that I spent £28 million on from Hoffenheim. Now the reason this happened is because I wanted a striker. I bid for Viper and also Bayer, but I wanted to see which one we could get because I was interested in both. I managed to seal the deal for Viper, considered that the end of my transfers, holidayed ahead, but what I didn't know was that this deal was still going on. Bayer got accepted as we were holidaying, and he joined the club when we kind of didn't need him. So even though Brighton are known for their great transfer business, I seem to have messed that up within 2 seasons, but I think we made up for it in this transfer window. The window started by moving on a huge player. Igor has gone to Al Hilal in Saudi, 600 grand a week he's getting, age 27, but we got £33 million for him, which isn't bad for a guy that they paid £40 million for only 2 seasons ago. We've also saw Adam Webster leave permanently to join Al Ettifaq for a fee of £10.5 million. Mohamed Dahoud has left permanently too. We managed to secure that deal, £4.1 million to Girona. Not all transfers can work, and that was proved by John Pacheco, who we've now sold on to Werder Bremen, making £2 million back from the initial 7.5. When we loaned him out to Sociedad, he played once, came to us next year, played 0 times. Let's just call it a fail and move on. And the transfer that underwhelmed me the most though was Simon Adingra. He was a player that I thought had a lot of promise, but was not getting any game time at all. That really lowered his transfer value, and we only managed to get £4.6 million for him from Hertha, which isn't bad considering Brighton paid 6 mil, but he is clearly a better player than that. You can see in his attributes, so it's unfortunate to lose him for that money, and we've just got to deal with it. To quickly round up the loans, Kozlowski has gone to FC Cologne for the season, Hinshelwood's gone to Bristol City, Mazalu to Norwich, Barco to Middlesbrough. His loan at Boca did not go well, and for that reason I'm no longer considering him quality enough competition for Leif Davis at left back, so I've decided to sign someone else to compete for that spot. It's Amar Dedic, 22-year-old Bosnian international. What a player this is, what a signing, can play at both fullback slots. We've picked him up for $34.5 million from RB Salzburg, beat plenty of clubs to his signature, and we have one of the standout young defenders in world football in our team. We added Daniel Gonzalez to our ranks as well, a Chilean 23-year-old international. He's just a squad level defender that we signed for a small fee of $3 million from Universidad Catalánica out in Chile. Igor's replacement is a fellow Brazilian, 23-year-old Otavio joins us. £20.5 million was the fee from Benfica, not bad considering they paid $14 million the other season, had a great season for them, and now we've bought him for only a slight increase on that for a very talented young defender who's got the potential to get better still. And we've increased our midfield ranks, signing Isaac Johansson, Icelandic 36 capped international who's only 22. He's been at Copenhagen, went to Dusseldorf on loan, came back to Copenhagen, and now we picked him up. 29 million quid is the fee, and I think that's actually not too bad of a deal for the quality he's got. He's going to step in as a starter in our team already. And again, there's been a few changes to our best 11 this season. Dedic is now in as our best left back, everyone else stays the same outside of Kozlowski supposedly as our best attacking midfielder. I think we might see Johansson play there. It might have been Enciso, but we've loaned him out to Coventry for the season because again, he's another one that just isn't getting the game time. That's the biggest problem here at Brighton so far. We've got loads of wonderkids, but almost too many to actually get playing games and developing in this team. It's not a bad problem to have though, but clearly our transfers have worked out well for us this season because we've jumped up to 50-1 odds of winning the title. We've actually got Europa League football, is that right? I don't know how we've got that, I'm going to try and figure that out in a second, but we actually predicted 9th place, which is much better than recent seasons. And I don't really know what's happened here, but we have been pushed on to the Europa League football. I assume one of the English clubs maybe won a European tournament, and that gave us an extra place, I don't know. Man City, surprisingly, finishing in 9th place last year, still managed to secure Conference League football. Either way though, I'm definitely not complaining. We're going back to Europe, we've been increasing the facilities over the course of this save, increasing the youth recruitment as well, and creating a sustainable club for the future. But let's see how our new look team can do in season 3. And this season was a little bit of a mixed bag. We started off in the Europa League, of course, this year, did well in the league phase and made it to the round of 16. And we were against Marseille. Now we drew 0-0 in one leg. Baliba scored a brilliant goal to put us 1-0 up in the second leg. But that only lasted a few minutes because a mistake from Dedic led to the ball going to Conrad, who squared it to Ndai, who made it 1-1. And I'm not going to show you the rest of that game because Iliman and Ndai ended up scoring 4 goals in that one match. We lost 4-1 and that meant we came crashing out of the Europa League. But we did well in a different cup competition because we made it to the semi-final of the FA Cup where we faced off against Fulham in a tie that probably favoured us in the game. March got off to a flyer, scoring that brilliant shot in the 25th, and it took all the way until the 60th minute for the next goal of the game to go in, a Robinson cross finding Adams, who equalised for Fulham. But we managed to grow back into the game, Matoma driving into the area, finding João Pedro to make it 2-1. Not long afterwards, with the game closing out, Dedic found a nice ball into the area. He played it across to Buonanotte, who made it 3. And to finish off the semi-final in style, Gruda picked up the ball in the box, found Matoma, who hit this brilliant shot to make it 4-1. That meant we were in the FA Cup final, but we were drawn against Liverpool, who last season, if I remember correct, beat us 7-0. But this is our new look Brighton side, and it certainly wasn't going to be the same result again. In the 34th minute, Ferguson received the ball, found Johansson, who scored an excellent finish, and just as the first half was coming to an end, Solly March tucked in a second. And to put the icing on the cake, Matoma to Dedic, back to Matoma, into the box, he played a ball in, and Baliba managed to make it 3. And that was the result. We beat Liverpool 3-0 in an FA Cup final to secure our first trophy of the rebuild, and that was a massive success for us. And we needed that because it was a pretty disappointing season in the Carabao Cup and also arguably the league as well, where we secured only 56 points, 14 losses, 16 wins, an 8th place finish, but the winning of the FA Cup means we are going in to the Europa League again next season. And as you can see, we did alter our tactic a little bit this year to be a little more defensive minded. We got rid of our attacking midfielder, brought in someone at the base of the midfield, which has made us more secure, but it does mean there's less room to play for the young attacking midfielders that we have at the club. There's a lot of them here, so some of them aren't going to get any game time, but this season we're starting to learn our best players. Dedic was fantastic in the 15 games he played in an injury-ridden season. Matoma was great too, with 14 goals, 27 goals from João Pedro, 9 goals from Johansson, 7 from Baliba, and 8 from Buonanotte, in probably our best year yet. I mean, definitely. We won a trophy, even if the league performance wasn't as good as it has been. That FA Cup win, though, is massive for Brighton, a team that have never won the FA Cup before, never won the Carabao Cup, never won the Premier League, or anything of the like. So this is a big trophy for the club to have, and we're now going into season 4. We've been rewarded with a £63 million transfer budget, and we're going to use as much of that as possible to try and increase our team stature with some great Wonderkid additions. And it was another big window in season 4, but before I get into the transfers, if you guys could show your support, the last time I'll ask you to hit that like button, I'd massively appreciate it. Hopefully, if you've watched up to this point, I've earned that like, but I'll shut up now. Let's see the transfers. Let's start with the loan army. Mazalu has been developing well. He's gone to Luton this year for some game time. And Ciso goes to Fiorentina with an option to buy. Kasper Kozlowski does the same in his second season at FC Cologne. And Maxi Bayer has gone back to Hoffenheim to get some more game time in what could eventually be a permanent transfer. But the permanent transfers you want to see, Carl Rushworth, probably not the one you wanted to see actually, has moved to Manchester United. He was our third choice goalkeeper. They wanted him, so he's left. But the first big loss of the window was Amar Dedic leaving to Liverpool for a release clause fee of 50 million. When we signed that initial contract, I didn't think he'd do so well in season 1, but as you saw, 15 games, he was exceptional in all of them, and Liverpool have activated the release clause. 50 million to us. We get a profit, but we do lose a key player. And it was the same situation for Jean-Paul Van Hecke, who has also left the club, again earning £1 million a week at Al Ahly. This guy's been great since the start. I say great, he's been a good centre-back, maybe not as good as he could be for his attributes, but he's moved for a big £50 million fee. Not bad for a guy that Brighton paid £1.8 million for only a few years back. An unreal centre-back in terms of attributes, but we've got to get on without him. And I have a sneaky feeling we will be fine, because we've signed, in my opinion, a better player. 22-year-old now, Ousmane Diamonde, Ivorian international, 41 appearances for the national team, good with both feet, a physical monster, at the prime of his game at age 22 already. He's had some great years out at Sporting Club de Portugal, ready to take this step into the top 5 European leagues. 43 mil is the fee, rising to 45. It's most of the Van Hecke money, but I think it's been well spent. And that was the same for this transfer that I did not think we would pull off. On the transfer list at Benfica was Andreas Schelderup, who, as you can see, is considered probably the best player at the club, and we have signed him for a measly fee of 25 million. He's been unreal for Benfica, but I don't know what the situation was. Maybe he wanted to go to a bigger club, maybe he wanted more money. He's ended up on the transfer list, and we weren't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. We've brought him in, a very direct left-sided midfielder who can kit in on the right and score plenty of goals. The first new-gen signing of the rebuild is Mariano Ferreiro, an option at left-back with a big future. As you've been seeing, Barco has not been developing at all in this rebuild, so he's just being loaned out and he's just not going anywhere really in his career. So Leif Davis is back as a number 1 with Dedic leaving, and our new number 2 is going to be Mariano Ferreiro, who is signed for a pretty small fee of 6.25 million from San Lorenzo. But a wonder kid that I have never actually heard of, at least as far as I'm aware, who I have signed and I'm blown away by, is Isaac Hansen Aron, who has joined us from Borussia Mönchengladbach. Supposedly, he starts at Man United, went to Werder Bremen, and then went to Borussia Mönchengladbach. It's done really well everywhere he's gone, got plenty of game time. We paid £10 million for him, a release clause fee. Now, he's got some real weaknesses in his game, but 18 first touch, 16 dribbling, 16 passing, 16 vision, 16 technique, 17 off the ball, 16 composure. Who is this kid? I have no idea, but we have brought him in, and he is a gem now for us in our midfield. And this team, I think, is really coming together now. Our best 11 is Verbruggen in goal, now considered one of the best goalkeepers in the world, I would have thought, with attributes like this, and 33 Netherlands caps, age 23. We've got Singo at right back, who's had a good year for us since joining. We've got Diamonde and Otavio in the centre-back slots alongside Leif Davis, who is looking like a real good option at left-back. I've signed him in a few rebuilds before, and it never quite worked out, but this year it has. Gilmore's at the base of the midfield alongside Aaron and Baliba, who has continued to grow in that box-to-box role. We then got March on right wing, who continues to do really well for us, and he is alongside Schelderup and João Pedro. For all you football romanticists out there, I have given a job to Adam Lallana in the under-18s of the club, and I've also been sending Pascal Gross on coaching courses, and Lewis Dunk too. I'm hoping all of them will be able to stay at the club and develop their coaching careers. But outside of the niceties, let's get down to business. We are predicted 9th place in the league, 33 to 1 odds of winning the title. It's the best we've had yet, and as you can see, Schelderup is considered the, 5th best player in the division, which is an exceptional signing for us to be able to make, and I think he's really going to turn things around here at Brighton. But now we're ready to go. We go into our penultimate season, season 4. We've got an FA Cup under our belt. Our team are now cup winners. Hopefully that experience gives them a chance to compete in the Europa League and the Premier League and try and win some more trophies. And this was a much better season. We got knocked out of the FA Cup in the quarter-final, so we could not retain that, but we did eventually make it to the Europa League semis, where we faced off against Lyon. We won one leg 3-1, and then they came to our stadium. As you just saw, Singo managed to make it 1-0 early on, and he was instrumental in the second goal, going down the right-hand side and playing it across to João Pedro to make it 2. Matoma managed to make it 3 with his deflected shot, and we didn't stop there either, because Buonanotte found Gilmore to Baliba. He continued his scoring streak and made it 4. Unfortunately, Lyon were able to pull a couple of goals back. One came through this cross from Kubamendi, which found Cherki at the back post. The other came from Mohamed Ali Cho, who broke our defensive line and put it past Verbruggen. But we finished off in style. Pascal Gross, who's been with us the whole way, assisting a goal from Lewis Dunk. You couldn't ask for anything else. Those two were both in their last season and helped us qualify for a Europa League final with an aggregate win of 8-3 against Lyon. And in our toughest test yet, we faced Man Man City in the Europa League final. A Leif Davis cross found Singo after 4 minutes to make it 1-0, and we thought it was going to be an easier day out when Aaron found Buonanotte on the right wing and he hit this brilliant shot into the goal to make it 2. But we weren't just playing any team, we were playing Man City of course, who despite some poor league performances in this rebuild are still a great squad, and Doku managed to score to make it 2-1. But in the second half, the team talk clearly inspired them because in the 52nd minute, Singo found Pedro to make it 3-1. But the nerves started to get to us. Grealish going forward in the 78th minute managed to pull the ball across to Brandt to make it 3-2, and the final score was 3-2. We had managed to beat Man City, we won the Europa League, that's an FA Cup and a European title in this Brighton rebuild. For our team of Wonderkids, that is really impressive. But we did alright in all competitions. The FA Cup and the Carabao, we lost to 2 big teams in City and Arsenal. We were runners-up in the Community Shield, losing 4-1 to Arsenal. But in the league, we had our best finish yet, a 4th place spot, 23 wins, 72 points, a clear way away from the title. We secured a top 4 finish, and that means Champions League football in the coming season. Now we can thank some great players for that. Baliba having a great year with 11 goals, Matoma with 11, João Pedro scoring 30, we had 14 goals from shoulder up. Hansen Aaron had a brilliant first year and was our best player at the club. But one thing we can note, Valentin Barco, the best performance of every player in our books, he had a great season out on loan at Luton in the Championship. He tore it up, so congratulations to him. He might actually get some game time next year. Or maybe not, because I've been given £84 million to improve this team, and with 1 year left to go, going into the Champions League, I'm going to throw as much money at it as possible to try and make this team the best it can be. So let's see who we can bring in Season 5. And in our last transfer window, we have picked up some gems for our team. Firstly, let's talk about outgoings, where Kasper Kozlowski continues to make a living at FC Cologne. He's only 23 here, but he's now going into his 3rd season at the German club. Evan Ferguson has gone out on loan to Nottingham Forest. He's never really got consistent game time for us, so hopefully some Premier League minutes will help his development. Brian Gruder's development did kind of stall, so now he's gone to Bologna to develop. He had 2 really good years for us, so I don't think it was necessarily a failed transfer, and there's still plenty of time for him. But coming in firstly was Fernando Amarilla, who's joined us from the Argentinian divisions, 19 years of age. This new gen has been sent back out on loan for the year to develop, £7 million. So for anyone that continues over on Patreon, you'll have a great Wonderkid to join you in Season 6. And from the same club, we've managed to pick up Hugo Ramondino, who is a 20-year-old Argentinian, a great player with plenty of potential. Same club, like I say, 9.5 million. They are a Wonderkid factory, it seems, and we've got another gem there. Lewis Dunk has now retired, so we've bought in Emmanuel Del Shepa, a 19-year-old Belgian under-21 international with 4 goals in 15 appearances from centre-back, or I'd say centre-back, maybe attacking midfield, because he can apparently also play there. A 2-footed defender who's good on the ball and has a lot of potential to grow. We have signed him for 26.5 million, a release clause free from Belgium side Club Bruges. But the best signing of the lot, we have signed 22-year-old Kobe Mainu. He is now 22. That shows you how far into this rebuild we've got. He's had some great years at Man U, but never really got consistent game time, so we've picked him up for 32.5 million to add some extra depth to our midfield. And for those wondering about our coaches, here's how Lallana is developing, and we have given a job to Lewis Dunk in our under-21s, and Pascal Gross as well, also in the under-21s, learning their coaching qualifications and hopefully becoming good coaches in their own right. And here is our final best 11. Verbruggen is in goal and is now considered age 24 to be a world-class goalkeeper, a £75 million valuation. Singo's at right back, Diamonde, Otavio and Leif Davis still at left back, a very good talent there that we signed. Gilmore alongside Aaron, who is now probably one of the most talented midfielders in the world. In front of them, they've got shoulder up João Pedro and Buonanotte, who is one of the few Wonderkids in this save who was already at Brighton, who has actually developed the way that I would have wanted him to. And he did it the hard way. He wasn't a guaranteed starter. He played a little bit, then got loaned out to West Ham, played a little bit, but then really started to get a grip in the team. He hasn't played amazingly well, mind you, but he has developed and he is now a £100 million player, aged 22. So I'm happy with that. We've got a great squad full of young talents all around, from squad players like Hinshelwood to great players on the bench like Johansson and Kobe Mainu. We have developed an absolute beast of a team here, but even after all that, we're still predicted 8th place, 33-1 odds of winning the title, and shoulder up has kind of gone down in the estimations of the Premier League after last season, not even on the list now as one of the best players in the division. Verbruggen and Aaron are supposedly our best. We've got great facilities too, which we've near enough maxed out. We've got a big reputation. The finances are looking great too, with 100 million in the balance and nothing major in in Vedettes and loans. So let's go into our 5th and final season and see if we can win another trophy. And this year we of course had our first run in the Champions League, and we did well in the league phase, finishing in the top 8, qualifying for the round of 16, where we beat AC Milan. We then beat Manchester City in the quarterfinals to line up a semi-final against Monaco. And I'll be honest, I went into this with the expectation that this would be our easiest game in the Champions League run-in yet, but Golovin played it to Balogun to really prove us wrong, making it 1-0 after 3 minutes. With 49 minutes on the clock, we did manage to pull a goal back though. Ferrero threading through shoulder up, a very good team we've built here, finding João Pedro who equalised. But our Champions League run showed signs of coming to a potential end as Mukiele went forward in the 82nd minute, his cross found Balogun to Golovin who made it 2-1. So now we were heading back to the Amex Stadium, going into the second leg of the semi-final of the Champions League, 2-1 down. And we were hoping to make the home advantage count, but this mistake from Otavio in the 20th minute fed Balogun an easy goal, and after that we were 3-1 down on aggregate, so we were kind of down and out in the semi-final of the UCL. I was ready to accept that as a pretty good run in the Champions League, a good rebuild with Brighton, but the players had a different idea. In the 40th minute, Aaron picked up the ball and found Shoulder Up, who cut into the box and scored past Lafont to make it 3-2. And with time ticking away, with only 20 minutes left, Leif Davis found Julio Enciso, who has managed to make his way into the 11. He found Baliba, who equalised. And with the time ticking on, only a few minutes remaining, Leif Davis, looking dangerous down the left, found Baliba into Enciso, who tucked it away past Lafont. That was 4-3 on aggregate, and we were heading to a Champions League final. The only problem is, it was against Real Madrid, and if you watch my last rebuild with Rangers, we lost a Champions League final to them. They have just got something about winning the Champions League, and they're so hard to get past. But our Brighton team put in the performance of their life. They had an absolutely brilliant game. We made it to the 60th minute at 0-0, and Aaron drove into the area, hit a Travella left foot, that made it 1-0 past Courtois, and then nothing else happened. Despite 2.32 XG and us having a very minimal XG, we won 1-0 and we somehow won the Champions League with Brighton. Just to note as well, we did also beat Liverpool 3-0 in the Super Cup, so that's an FA Cup, a Champions League, a Europa League, and also this Super Cup to add to our trophy cabinet. Now, for domestic cups we were terrible in, but in the league we actually had a chance to win it. We were going neck and neck with Arsenal towards the end of the season, we were a few points behind them, and we actually had Arsenal as our second to last game. And this game will probably go down in Premier League history, I would say, as the best game ever. It was a title run-in, and Martinelli after 21 minutes chipped Verbruggen with a brilliant shot to make it 1. And 10 minutes before half-time, Ramadino, who joined us only this season, found João Pedro to shoulder up to equalise. Only 2 minutes later though, Saka goes up the other end, finds Martinelli, who pulled it out to Zinchenko, who then drove into the area, hit a shot past Verbruggen, and made it 2-1. We went straight up the other end though, a corner falling to Singo, who found Ferrero in the box, who rose highest to make it 2-2. Surely the second half couldn't be as entertaining as the first. Well, only a few minutes into it, João Pedro managed to put us in the lead at 3-2, and with 20 minutes left in the game, we managed to add another, and Ciso finding Baliba to make it 4-2. But in the 75th minute, only a few minutes later, up came Arsenal, and this game continued to get better as a deflected shot made it 4-3. And with Arsenal breathing down our necks, trying to secure their place as the title winners, we came forward in the 87th minute, and a brilliant shot from Mainu made it 5-3. And we thought we were home and dry until the 92nd minute, where this guy who I've never heard of made it 5-4. And in the 94th minute, the goals continued. João Pedro getting forward, making his way into the box, finding Enciso, who made it 6-4. Now don't worry, that was the end of the game, but that win against Arsenal meant if we won the last game of the season and Arsenal didn't, we would win the title. And it was a quiet home game against Everton, but we got what we needed. Ramadino cutting it in to Billy Gilmore, who hasn't scored yet, but we've seen on camera, but there you go, he made it 1-0. We needed Arsenal to lose, but unfortunately, they managed to beat West Ham. And that led to a very tight finish in the Premier League table. 80 points would not normally be enough to win the league, but we were only 2 points away from the eventual winners Arsenal, who have won it now 4 years on the bounce. Fair play to them. We were so close to them, and maybe if you guys continue this rebuild, you can close that gap. João Pedro continued to be the player of the rebuild with 30 goals this season, one of the best forwards in the world. Gilmore, Singo, and Ciso, Baliba, Mazilu as well was here this year and managed to chip in with 4 goals. Everyone performing great. 12 goals from shoulder up. We had 7 from Isaac, Hansen, Aaron, but I think we can be very happy with this rebuild. The trophies we've won, we've got a 5-star reputation, we've got our old ex-players as coaches, we have done this Brighton rebuild the right way, and there we go. That is the rebuild finish. Make sure you subscribe to see the next one, comment down below who you want to see next, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.